And back to our breaking news this hour. German officials now making a public appeal for help in the search for the suspect named in connection with the Berlin attack on Monday. They've released this picture of the 24-year-old Tunisian man. They are offering a reward for any information to locate this suspected terrorist. The attack has prompted increased security measures across Europe. In London, British police closed down roads around the Queen's residence at Buckingham Palace during a military ceremony in response to the attack. Security was heightened in Budapest and Hungary as tanks were rolling through the streets. And in Italy, heavy police presence surrounded holiday shoppers in Milan. Joining me now is Admiral James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander and MSNBC Chief International Security and Diplomacy Analyst. As a former NATO commander, you know this area better than anyone. How hard is it going to be to find a man? He got a big head start because they didn't have video coverage and they were holding the wrong man for the first 24 hours.
Going to be very difficult, Andrea. And of course, the real challenge in Europe is that anybody can cross these borders in the so-called Schengen zone. So there's really no border patrol, if you will, no place to check. Whereas police forces do have to coordinate when they cross those borders. So it's a very, very difficult task.
And this comes at a time where we've just had this horrible incident, the assassination of the Russian ambassador in Turkey, unrelated, we believe, of course. But there just is a sense that after the Nice attack, the truck attack there, the arrest of some ordinary seeming citizens in France who turned out to be, we believe, terror suspects, there's just a sense that the Europeans are not on top of this, and that obviously Turkey is right there on the border of the civil war in Syria, so they've got their own issues as well as domestic concerns.
Indeed. Let's face the fact that Europe is 30-plus individual countries, each one with its own language, its own customs, its own laws, its own border regimes. It would be as though the 50 United States all had a different approach to fundamental facts in law enforcement. Makes it very, very difficult. Look, what you need to succeed are three things. You need international cooperation among the entities. You need interagency cooperation between the organs of government. And you need cooperation with the private sector. The Europeans have too many structural barriers to make that very effective in what's a relatively small space.
And that was exactly what EU political structures were supposed to do, is flatten all of that out and make communications better. I wanted to ask you about Russia. It seems as though the rhetoric is increasing because we heard from the spokesperson in Moscow saying that communications were nearly frozen. The denial from the State Department was almost immediate. But it seems like an escalating tit for tat in response to the American complaints about Vladimir Putin, our own reporting, of course, yours and Cynthia McFadden's reporting, that Vladimir Putin was personally responsible for at least the distribution through some sort of cutout to WikiLeaks of all of that democratic material. And the concern about Russia trying to influence our election.
Pretty shocking, and I thought Senator Jack Reed, my good friend, had this one exactly right. We have got to respond to this in a forceful way. Clearly what the Russians are doing are trying to simply freeze the frame. You're talking about freezing the communications. They just want to freeze the frame until they get, in their view, a much more compatible administration coming in. Let's hope that the Trump administration recognizes that ploy for what it is and will be willing to step up to the plate and take hard measures against a pretty obvious intrusion into our system.
Well, there's a leaked memo from, I guess, Trump transition people at the Pentagon, and Foreign Policy printed it yesterday, and it doesn't have Russia as a top security concern, a foreign policy concern for the incoming administration. They talked about budget cuts and other defense priorities, but not Russia.
You know, that's shocking to me. And every defense document, every strategic national planning document has to address the fact that Russia remains a significant threat to the United States simply by the fact of their nuclear arsenal. And as our relationship with them has effectively cratered over the last couple of years, that level of threat rises even higher, Andrea. You know this. So at the end of the day, I was very, very surprised not to see that. And also no mention of North Korea, which I would argue is actually the most dangerous country in the world. So we've got to wait and see what the actual priorities are. But that draft memo, I don't think is a good place to start.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much coming to us from Tufts. Appreciate it. And coming up.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
On to you.